There's a saying in spirituality. It goes something like this: coming out of the spiritual closet. Well, I'm kind of a little bit hesitant to do this podcast today because it is something super near and dear to my heart, and it really represents me coming out of the spiritual closet. Today, for the very first time, I want to share my personal journey and relationship with Yeshua, Jesus Christ. So if you're someone in particular that's been kind of anti-religion, anti the Bible, anti-Jesus, but you also really relate to Christ consciousness, or maybe you've really been religious and you're kind of beginning to recognize there's something been a little bit off in the teachings in the church, you definitely want to listen to this podcast. Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. I'm Dr. Erin, Doctor of Divinity and Master Spiritual Psychology Coach. And today I want to get a little bit vulnerable and share my personal journey and story with Christ. I was somebody who was raised in a home where it was anti-religion. We actually looked down upon anybody that was in the church. We kind of laughed at people that were involved with the Bible or would talk about Jesus. I was from California. I grew up in somewhat of a hippie commune. My mom was anti-religion. And so when I began to have my spiritual awakening at the age of 22, after having a full-term stillborn and realizing that my baby was gone, but his body was here, and realizing that we are spiritual beings, I went on what's now been a 30-year journey of seeking truth. And as they say, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall open. So today I want to actually talk a little bit about my personal journey with Christ. It's something that I really haven't talked about much in the school and things. I have made a big commitment to not use the word pretty much God or Jesus. And there's a very specific reason why. It's because I'm speaking to particular people that are either afraid of those words, they don't understand those words, or people who are trying to get away from that and come to straight spirituality. So I want to share this today in a vulnerable place, but also hopefully bringing some great enlightenment and really opening up to what is really on my heart. I'm in a practice this month, and my number one prayer is to embody more and more of truth. So I am a minister by trade. I actually decided to go for commerce as a business because I find that people who are developing their business have to get in a results consciousness versus a lot of spiritual centers and churches I was in. It just felt like people weren't actually being productive in what their embodiment was around the work. And this podcast might be a little bit longer than our typical 11 minutes to 22 minutes each week, because I really want to share my journey with Christ. So it's funny, as I'm talking about this, I'm like, I'm getting a little bit even overwhelmed as I speak about this. And I think it's because I value it so much. You know, if we have significance on things, we can get a little bit more concerned about in things because we value it so much. And this is something that I've really held back on because I don't want to ever offend anybody. And I want to respect people's truth around Jesus. And I want to respect people's truth that just want spirituality. So I've chosen to not talk about these certain things, but I really want to come out of the closet about it because it's really near and dear to my heart. And the reason why is because I really truly believe that if people put God or Jesus, which by the way, that's not even his real name, it's Yeshua, okay, outside of themselves, then it's very disempowering. And I believe that one of my biggest callings in this lifetime is to really be the embodiment and speak and preach and write and live truth. And so I want to share what Yeshua, Jesus Christ, has taught me and told me. So years ago, when I was having my spiritual awakening, if you guys know my story at all, after having my stillborn son, I felt like I was living a double life. I would go and do, meditation in the closet, literally, and then I would live like a normal life, around a lot of people that had a lot of dysfunction, alcohol, drugs, all that. And I was living kind of like this double life. I was trying to figure out, I came from a culture that it was normal to just have drugs and alcohol around. It was normal to just have sex. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. And so I began to meditate. And as I began to meditate, more and more truths began to come in. Masters began to teach me in meditation. And it was a profound, like the most amazing part of my entire life is my spiritual awakening. The experiences I've had in prayer and in meditation just blew my mind, like literally out of body experiences, masters coming, revelations, going to all past lifetimes, being able to, really read people's souls, like so much revelation. And one time I was in deep meditation. It was probably most likely 4 o'clock in the morning, because that was a lot of time I would wake up and do my meditation. And and Jesus came to me. And I didn't believe in Jesus at that point in time at all. And I was like, oh, you do exist, right? It's kind of like, okay. And he began to come to me. He began to come and teach me in consciousness and bring a lot of revelations. And then what would happen is, after I would come out of the teachings, after through him and through source within, then I began to reach for all the different teachings, and I began to get confirmation and look up Bible things and look up all the ancient wisdom and began to get confirmation. And that's when I knew this was real, because what I was being taught while I was in prayer and meditation was exactly what was being said in the Bible and all prophetic texts, right? So Yeshua began to come and teach me, and it was some of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And what he really taught me and wanted me to carry in some of the teachings was that he never came to be idolized, right? He came actually to tear down religions, not to become a religion. He never intended for anyone to think that they needed to go through him to, have a relationship with God, the truth of who they are. And there were times, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I thought, is this real? Have I just gone crazy? Like, is this actually happening? Right. And it became more and more real, of course. And one time, a friend of mine gifted me a session with a very big spiritual leader. And in session, she said that what she did in session is she would work through people's guardian angels. And so she would communicate with the guardian angel, and she would know what was happening with the person. And when we went into session, she said, wow, this is really special. I've never had anyone's guardian angel be Jesus Christ. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, right? So not to like toot my own horn or anything like that. It's something I just have never really talked about. It's something that's been very sacred to my heart, and also that I just feel like is blasphemy for a lot of people. And so I've just kept it within my own consciousness, primarily. A few close friends I've shared it with. So why? Why am I sharing this? It's very important because one of my callings is to have people recognize that they are source, that they are God's source. And this is, people can't even have this, right? We're in a multi-dimensional experience here. God, the all-knowing, all-loving, omnipotent presence, right? If God's source is everything, it is all-knowing, omnipotent, right? The only way that God's source can experience more of itself is to experience itself inverted. And this is what's called the human experience. We're inverted as the fractal as the unique divine expression, right? You, me, we're actually one, right? We know this through the entanglement, not even theory anymore. It's a scientific fact, right? We're entangled, we're one, right? So we're one with God. We are God. Collectively, we are God, right? We are having this multi-dimensional experience of being human, but the truth is we're God as well. And we know now through the torus field at the very center is God's source, is the 0 point field from a scientific perspective. But from a spiritual perspective, we are that source. If you go deep into meditation, right? You go deep into prayer, you tap into that infinite nature. That's the truth of who you are. We are eternal, immortal, spiritual beings. We're spirit. We're having a human experience. But the truth is, this is transient. This body is just energetics that's being held together. It's not the truth of who we are. The truth is we're source. Okay. By the way, God is not the original word either. Okay. Yahweh. Okay. The breath, right? Okay. Spirit is the spirituality, is a reality that's everything's created from spirit. So I wanted to read something right here, which is the real story of Jesus. So I'm going to actually read this. So if you see my eyes, it's because I'm actually reading it. Okay. So you can take a deep breath in, or you can just watch me read, whatever works. And just, I invite you to just open your mind and not resist this or put it into a category of whatever you think. But I just want to say that this is the message. This is really the message. Okay. So the real story of Jesus, the story you were told, was edited. The man was real, but the story was hijacked, folded, inverted, and weaponized. Jesus did not come to start a religion. He came to end religion and the control system that they were built on. Not just Rome, not just priests, the whole inversion grid, a resurrection, the whole trap designed to loop suffering, recycle trauma, and sever humans from source. He came to crash it. Who was he really? He wasn't a man trying to become God. He was a mirror reminding everyone who they are. He didn't sit on a throne. He walked barefoot with the broken. He didn't build temples. He burned down illusions. He didn't shame the wounded. He healed them by reminding them they were never unworthy to begin with. He was the embodiment of harmonic resonance, the living field of divine coherence made flesh. He wasn't sent to save you. He came to activate you. But the system couldn't handle it. He didn't ask to be worshiped. He taught embodiment. He didn't point up, he pointed inward. He wasn't selling salvation. He was revealing sovereignty. And that made him the most dangerous man alive. Because if the people remembered what he was showing them, they would never bow again. Not to priests, not to kings, not to fear. They would awaken. And the whole parasitic system built on hierarchy, shame, and silence would collapse overnight. So they killed him. But they didn't stop there. They killed the man, but they kept the name. What happened next was the real crime. They took his essence and built a weapon out of it. They turned his memory into a trap. They used his image to build churches, empires, and armies. They taught that his death made you forever in debt. They preached submission to his name. They made people feel unworthy to even seek God without a middleman. They turned the healer into a martyr, the mirror into a myth, and the truth into a brand. But make no mistake, the real Jesus never asked for a religion. And by the way, his real name was not Jesus, it was Yeshua. But the miracles were just the beginning. His so-called miracles were not supernatural. They were simply demonstrations of frequency coherence, oversoul alignment, and biofield reactivation. Water into wine, frequency transmutation. Healing the blind, neuro recoding. Walking on water, stillness mastery within chaos. Raising of the dead, reconnecting the soul to the field memory. He was showing us what we all came here to remember. He was a blueprint, not a one-off. And Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. She was his counterpart, not a tag-along, not a side character, and definitely not a sinner. She was a priestess of the original harmonic order, trained in sacred frequency work, cellular healing, and divine feminine restoration. Together, they were restoring the masculine and feminine temple of earth. And that's exactly why her story was erased. Because if people saw the true power of unified love and divine balance, they would walk away from control-based systems forever. So what did the resurrection really mean? He didn't rise from the dead to prove magic. He returned to prove memory, to show the truth cannot be killed, that resonance cannot be buried, that when the field is coherent, not even death can sever it. He was not trying to be worshiped. He was leaving a vibrational fingerprint in the timeline. You are not broken. You are not lost. You do not need to be saved. You only need to remember. The resurrection wasn't the end of the story. It was the activation of the real one. Why now? And why is this coming up again? Because we're finally at a point in the cycle where the mirror cracks. The false light, the false God, the false guilt, the false history, it's all collapsing. And the original harmonic frequency is rising again. You don't need a priest. You don't need permission. You don't need to earn forgiveness. You were never disconnected from source because you are source. What did Yeshua actually teach? He taught that heaven is within, not above. Did you know as you go inside into each molecule and cell, the frequency gets higher as you go further and further in until you hit 0 point field? Everyone talks of it above. It's not above, it's within. What he taught is that truth does not require a middleman. What he taught is you too will do greater things than I. What he taught is I am the way, meaning the I am consciousness of that one divine mind that is the truth of who you are. He taught the spiritual laws of the universe to love one another, forgive, be still, and remember who you are. And so why did the system have to hide it? Because truth spreads faster than lies when it's harmonic. Because once people feel coherent, they stop seeking authority. Because if you realize that source lives within you, the whole machine breaks. No more middlemen, no more holy wars, no more guilt economy. Just presence, just power, and peace can't be bought or sold. This is the resurrection. The second coming of Christ is recognizing that you are Christ. Yeshua lives now. The universe is being created now. Miracles are now. Walking on water is now. Everything is now. There is only the present now. The second coming of Christ is not in the clouds. It is not a man. It is the consciousness that creates from the core of who you are. It is the life force. So the worshiping of something outside of the self ends now. No more loops, no more lies, and no more saviors. Just source, living, remembering, and rising. And so I say this from the depths of my heart, just taking a deep breath in, doing a spiritual mind treatment, just breathing in and out, recognizing that this is the true prayer, not prayer to a man in the sky, but prayer to expand the mini mind into the divine mind, to know that when I pray, one of three things has to happen. I expand my consciousness so much so that even the problem that I thought I need to pray for disappears because it's no longer considered a problem. Or I have a new revelation, a new insight, a new way of knowing how I can solve this infinite thing. Or a miracle happens, because miracles are just simply glitches in your current belief system. All things are possible when we believe, which means we have to be and live in our highest self. And so I'm just knowing right now, this true coming out of the closet, wherever anyone is right now, wherever it is, the awakening and being able to come out of the closet and talk about it, believe it, live it, do the deep soul work, whatever it is, to come out and be able to begin to speak of knowing that we're not in a spiritual crisis. We're in the remembering. There is no such thing as a crisis in source mind. There is only the remembering. And so I simply know this in the name of truth. As together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Okay, great, you guys. Also in here each week on this podcast, you are welcome to come in, grab your besties, get a tea. So each week we also go over one universal law lesson, and this week's law is the law of cosmic creation. So what does that mean exactly? We have different levels of consciousness. It's all going on at the same time. But part of that is we are experiencing the individual consciousness we're experiencing the cosmic consciousness, and we're experiencing, of course, the source God consciousness as well. We can tap into it wherever it is, but they're all going on at all points in time. So what is the cosmic consciousness? Well, it's kind of like, imagine when they say, God rested on the seventh day. The truth is that whatever we create is perpetuating, right? Whatever, we're habitual beings. So we don't have to think about beating the heart. It's happening because it's on a subconscious and super consciousness level, right? The stars, the galaxy is the same source. It came and was created out of the same source. It lives and breathes in every cell of our molecules in our cells of our body. And what creates gravity and what creates the stars and the moon in the sky, it's cosmic consciousness. It's there. It's the rhythm. It has been created, and therefore it is like an automated system of the rhythm that is there. So the point is that your thoughts will echo into eternity. So be cautious of what you're creating, because whatever you create, you become. Okay. And on that note, you guys are welcome. Below here, there is a free link to grab the Universal Law Calendar. You can put on your calendar, and every week on Sunday at 11:11 a.m. PST, you'll have a new distinction on your calendar. There's only one law. It's the law of cause and effect, source, consciousness, your true self, God self, creating, and the effect of all in this relative universe. But each week we have a distinction so that you can really learn all about spiritual law and understanding all of it. Okay. And then also, if you're ready to dive deeper and do more of your deep enlightenment work, you're welcome to come in and do your E4 method. You can learn all about that. There is a podcast series on E4. It's a process I developed of regression work to birth your soul's purpose, to have full revelation. It's a path of enlightenment to heal your past, empower your present, and manifest your future. So also you can come in and get accredited below. All those links are there. You guys have a beautiful, blessed day, and may you live the truth.